Ever wondered how one man could transform an entire region, creating one of West Africa's largest empires? Usman dan Fodio did not believe he was starting something new. He believed he was reviving something ancient. What if I told you his entire life was a deliberate echo of someone who lived over 1,000 years before him? This is the story of Usman dan Fodio, the founder of the Sokoto, and his profound connection to the Prophet Mohammed. It's a connection that goes far beyond simple admiration. It's a story of claimed ancestry, spiritual inheritance, and a life meticulously modeled on the prophetic blueprint. Welcome to Echoes of Reborn Africa, where we rewrite the story of African empires like never before. Please subscribe. Let's start with the most direct claim bloodline. Usman dan Fodio's family history is rich with accounts tracing his lineage back to the Prophet himself. Through his mother, Hawa, it's believed he was a direct descendant of Idris, the founder of Morocco. And who was it? A great-grandchild of Hazan, the Prophet's own grandson. This connection rooted his identity in the very heart of Islamic nobility. But it doesn't stop there. His clan, the Toronkawa, also asserted Arab ancestry through a prominent early Islamic figure named Usman, who is said to have married a local Fulani woman named Bayud, weaving their heritage directly into the fabric of the region's history. Usman becomes the 11th great-grandson of U. So, for Dan Fodio and his followers, his leadership wasn't just earned, it was inherited. But a genealogical link was only half the story. The true power of his movement lay in how he intentionally mirrored his life as journey after the Prophet. This is where history becomes a living, breathing guide. Around the age of 40, significant age in Islamic tradition, Fodio began experiencing powerful spiritual visions. These weren't just dreams. They were divine encounters that cemented his mission as a great reformer sent to purify and revive. Have you ever heard of a dream so powerful it changed the course of history? For Usman dan Fodio, a scholar in 18th century West Africa, one vision did exactly that. This wasn't just any dream. It was a divine encounter that would ignite a revolution. Around the year 1794, when he was 40, Dan Fodio had a profound spiritual experience. He described being transported to a celestial assembly, a circle of holy men led by none other than the Prophet Mohammed himself. In this vision, the founder of the Qadiri Sufi order, Abdul Qadir Gilani, stepped forward. He dressed Dan Fodio in a green mantle and a special turban, symbols of immense spiritual authority, and named him the Imam of holy men. Then came the moment that sealed his destiny. Jelani handed him a sword, Kalinit, the sword of truth, and commanded him to raise it against the enemies of God and establish righteousness. This vision wasn't just a personal revelation. It became the spiritual mandate for his physical jihad against the Hausa kings, whom he saw as corrupt and This wasn't his first spiritual encounter. A few years earlier, he had a vision where he felt he was granted the power to perform miracles. But it's crucial to understand how he interpreted these experiences. He wasn't claiming to be a new prophet that would go against the core Sunni Islamic beliefs. Instead, he saw these visions as a divine sign that he was the Mushadat, the great renewer of the faith, sent to purify Islam in his time. By reporting this direct spiritual connection to the Prophet, Dan Fodio established a legitimacy that no local ruler could match. To his followers, he wasn't just a political leader, he was divinely sanctioned. But here's the fascinating part. Despite these deeply mystical experiences, Dan Fodio's mission was firmly grounded in orthodox Islamic practice. He used his newfound authority to fight against what he called false innovations, things like sorcery, unethical business practices, and other syncretic beliefs that had mixed with Islam over the centuries. He believed that any true spiritual vision must align with Islamic law, the Sharia. His sword of truth wasn't just a weapon of war, it was also the written word. He was a prolific writer, authoring over 100 books to ensure his authority was always backed by solid Sunni scholarship. He championed education over superstition, arguing that knowledge was the ultimate tool for purity. So, Usman dan Fodio's story is a powerful blend of mystical experience and scholarly rigor. His visions gave him the authority, but his deep knowledge of Islamic tradition gave his movement its substance and lasting impact, reshaping the entire landscape of West Africa. He argued that true spiritual visions must align with Sharia. His sword of truth was equally the written word. He wrote over 100 books to ensure his mystical authority was always backed by scholarly Sunni evidence. This echoes the Prophet's own profound spiritual awakening and the first revelations he received at a similar age. As his calls for reform grew louder, so did the opposition. The Sultan of Gobir, the local ruler, saw his growing influence as a threat. This tension reached a boiling point, forcing Dan Fodio to make a critical decision. In 1804, he led his followers on a migration, leaving their homes in Diggle for a new basin. He didn't just call this a move, he explicitly named it a hijrah. This was a direct and powerful parallel to the Prophet Muhammad's own hijrah in 622 CE, when he fled persecution in Mecca for the city of Medina. By invoking this event, Dan Fodio wasn't just escaping danger. He was signaling the birth of a new community, a new political and spiritual order, just as the Prophet had done centuries earlier. Upon arriving in Gudu, his followers solidified his leadership by electing him Amir al-Mu'minin, or Commander of the Faithful. This wasn't a kingly title. It was the title held by the caliphs, the successors to the Prophet Muhammad. By accepting it, he was formally stepping into the role of a spiritual and political leader. Guided by the prophetic motto, his entire movement, the Sokoto Jihad, was framed not as a conquest for power, but as a struggle to establish a society based on true Islamic principles, mirroring the Prophet's own early struggles. Even the end of his life seemed to follow this divine script. Usman dan Fodio passed away in 1817 at the age of 62. His followers immediately noted the powerful symbolism of this. It was the exact same age as the Prophet Muhammad at the time of his passing. For them, this was the final confirmation. From his ancestry and spiritual calling to his migration, his title, and even his lifespan, Usman dan Fodio's life was seen as a perfect reflection of the prophetic journey. He wasn't just a leader. He was the fulfillment of a historical and spiritual pattern, a reformer who successfully brought the past into the present to shape the future of West Africa. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into history as fascinating as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.